Okay, so you want to own a fast food restaurant. Find a location, buy the fryers, hang up the menu, and watch the money roll in. People are always hungry. Lines are always moving. The cash register never stops. Seems simple enough. It is not simple. And by the end of this, you are going to see exactly why the busiest burger joint on your street might actually be one of the most financially fragile businesses in the entire city. Let's start with what you see from the outside, because that image is doing a lot of lying. You walk past a fast food location on a Friday afternoon. The drive-thru wraps around the building. The dining room is packed. Delivery drivers are stacked 3 deep near the pickup counter. Every register is open. The smell of frying oil hits you from 20 feet away. Your brain does the math automatically. This place is making a killing. But here is what your brain is actually calculating. It is counting activity. And activity is not the same thing as profit. Not even close. A fast food restaurant is not one business. It is 6 businesses sitting inside the same building, all running at the same time, all competing for the same pool of money. It is a food production operation. It is a retail store. It is a logistics system. It is a real estate investment. It is a labor-heavy service business. And it is a marketing machine. The burger is just what comes out the other end. The real challenge is keeping all 6 of those systems running without any one of them swallowing the others alive. So let us talk about the actual money. Where it comes from, and far more importantly, where it goes. A typical fast food location in the United States generates somewhere between $1 million and $2.5 million a year in gross sales. Sounds like real money, and it is. The problem is what happens to that money before it reaches the owner's pocket. Picture a single customer walking through the door. They order a burger, fries, and a drink. The total comes to $12. That $12 has a story, and the story does not have a happy ending for the owner. About $3.40 of that $12 goes straight to food and packaging. The beef patty, the bun, the cheese, the potato, the cup, the straw, the bag. That is roughly 28% of the ticket. Gone before the customer even takes a bite. Another $3.40 goes to labor. The person who cooked the patty, the person who assembled the order, the cashier, the manager on the floor, their payroll taxes, and whatever benefits the restaurant offers. That is another 28%. Gone. So already, on a $12 sale, $6.80 has disappeared, and the customer is still standing at the counter. But we are just getting started. About 96 cents goes to rent and the costs attached to the building. Not just base rent, but property taxes, maintenance fees, and building insurance. That is another 8%. 60 cents goes to utilities and operational overhead. Electricity to run the fryers, the freezers, the lights, the ventilation system, and the point-of-sale software. Another 5%. If this is a franchise, and most fast food restaurants in America are, there are royalty fees and marketing contributions sent back to the parent company every single month. On a franchise like McDonald's, that is roughly 9% of gross sales, which on our $12 ticket is about $1.08. Gone. Whether the month was good or terrible, that payment is due. Credit card processing fees take another 36 cents. Equipment reserve, meaning the money set aside for when the fryers break down and the refrigerator needs replacing, takes another 48 cents, add it all up. On a $12 transaction, $11.20 has already been allocated. What is left for the owner? $1.80. 15 cents on the dollar, that is before income taxes. And that is on a good day with a well-run location. Now here is where it gets interesting, because the story of fast food economics is not really about individual transactions. It is about what happens when you multiply that math thousands of times a week and then introduce all the things that can quietly go wrong. The first place things go wrong is food cost. Every ingredient a restaurant buys is a commodity: beef, cooking oil, dairy, wheat, potatoes. These prices move. They move with weather, with supply chain disruptions, with trade policy, and with global demand. A restaurant owner cannot control any of that. When wholesale ground beef prices jumped roughly 20% in recent years, fast food operators could not immediately raise their menu prices by 20% without losing customers. So the cost of the burger went up, but the price on the menu stayed roughly the same, and the margin in between got thinner. That compression happened without a single thing going wrong inside the restaurant itself. The commodity market just decided to move, and the owner absorbed the hit. The target for food cost in a well-managed fast food operation is between 25 and 30% of sales. When it creeps above 30, the whole financial model starts to strain, and it does not take much. A 3% variance in food cost on $1 million restaurant is $30,000 a year walking out the door, but food cost is not even the biggest expense. Labor is. Labor typically runs between 25 and 32% of gross sales in a fast food environment. Wages, payroll taxes, workers' compensation, training and benefits combined. And labor is complicated in a way that food cost is not, because demand for labor is not constant. A fast food restaurant might need 12 people on the floor between noon and 1 in the afternoon, and 4 people between 2 and 4 in the afternoon. The owner has to schedule for both. Too many people during the slow hours and the payroll burns through margin without producing anything. Too few people during the rush, and the drive-thru backs up, customers leave, and the revenue never arrives at all. The industry term for the combined total of food cost and labor cost is prime cost. And prime cost is the single most important number in restaurant economics. The rule is almost universal. Prime cost must stay below 60% of gross sales. If it goes above 65, there is mathematically not enough money left to cover rent, utilities, royalties, maintenance, and debt, and the business starts losing money on every dollar it brings in. This is why add-ons and drinks matter so much more than most people realize. If you watch closely at any fast food counter, the screen or the employee will always ask a version of the same question. Would you like to add a drink? Would you like to make that a combo? Would you like to add a sauce? That is not friendliness. That is economics. A fountain drink at a fast food restaurant costs the operator roughly 30 cents to produce. The cup, the lid, the straw, the syrup, the carbonated water, all in about 30 cents. The retail price of that drink is somewhere around $2.89. The gross margin on that drink is nearly 90%. Compare that to the burger, which has a food cost closer to 30%. The drink is carrying the order. The same logic applies to fries. A large fries costs the operator roughly 45 cents in raw ingredients and packaging. It sells for $2.59. The difference is enormous, so when a customer buys just a burger, the restaurant makes a modest margin on a single item. When the customer buys the burger, the fries, and the drink as a combo, the 2 high-margin items are doing most of the heavy lifting. The combo meal is not a convenience for the customer. It is an economic architecture designed by the restaurant to move the average transaction toward profitability. This is called average order value, and it is one of the most important levers in the entire business. 2 restaurants with the same number of customers can generate wildly different revenue based entirely on how much each customer spends per visit. A restaurant that averages $6.50 per transaction and serves 500 customers a day generates $3,250. A restaurant that averages $14.50 per transaction with the same foot traffic generates $7,250. Same building, same staff, same customers walking in. $4,000 difference every single day, which is over $1,400,000 a year, because the menu was engineered better. If you're finding this breakdown useful, go ahead and subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. It genuinely helps the channel grow, and there is a lot more of this kind of content coming. Now let us talk about rent, because rent is where a lot of fast food businesses quietly die. A fast food restaurant needs to be somewhere people already are. High traffic intersections, near shopping centers, on roads with tens of thousands of vehicles passing every day. Those locations cost money, significant money. And unlike food costs, which go down when fewer customers show up, rent does not go down, ever. Whether a restaurant serves 1,000 customers on Tuesday or 40 customers because there was a snowstorm, the landlord is owed the same amount on the first of the month. This is what economists call a fixed cost. It does not flex with the business. It just sits there, waiting. The target for occupancy cost in a healthy fast food operation is between 6 and 10% of gross sales. That means a restaurant generating $1,500,000 a year should be paying somewhere between $90,000 and $150,000 in total occupancy costs annually. When rent climbs to 12 or 15% of gross sales, which happens constantly in high-density urban locations, the business is already in serious trouble before it sells a single meal. The most dangerous mistake new operators make is paying too much for a location because of the foot traffic it promises, without doing the math on whether that traffic can actually support the lease. A site generating $1,100,000 in annual sales with a fixed lease of $121,000 a year is operating at an 11% occupancy cost. That is not a restaurant on its way to profit. That is a restaurant slowly running out of road. This brings us to what is called the break-even point. And understanding this number is the difference between running a business and running a charity for your landlord. Break-even is the exact amount of revenue a restaurant must generate just to cover all of its costs, before a single dollar of profit exists. The math is not complicated. You take all of your fixed monthly costs, which are rent, management salaries, utilities, software, and equipment reserves, and you divide that by what is called the contribution margin ratio, which is the percentage of each dollar of sales that is left after variable costs like food and hourly labor. Here is what that looks like in practice. A fast food restaurant has fixed monthly cost of $20,000. Its variable costs, which are food, hourly labor, and packaging, consume 60 cents of every dollar it brings in. That means for every dollar of sales, 40 cents is available to cover fixed costs and generate profit. To cover $20,000 in fixed costs, the restaurant needs to generate $50,000 in monthly sales just to break even. Every dollar above $50,000 generates 40 cents in operating profit. Every dollar below $50,000 is a loss. Now change one variable. The landlord raises rent by $2,000 per month. The fixed costs become $22,000. The break-even jumps to $55,000. That $5,000 increase in monthly break-even is the difference between surviving a slow January and not making payroll. Or try it this way. Beef prices spike and food costs creep from 28% to 32%. Variable costs now consume 64 cents of every dollar. The contribution margin drops from 40 cents to 36 cents. The break-even on the same $20,000 fixed costs